Before we begin, if you love powerful true history documentaries about war, power, and survival, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Every week we uncover untold moments that changed our world forever. Now, let's return to the summer of 1940, the moment when Britain stood alone. By late June 1940, Europe lay in ruins beneath the shadow of the German war machine. France had fallen in 6 devastating weeks. The British Expeditionary Force had narrowly escaped through the beaches of Dunkirk, leaving behind their heavy equipment but preserving their fighting men. Adolf Hitler, standing triumphant in conquered Paris, now faced a question that would shape the fate of the war. Would Britain yield, or must it be invaded? On July 2, 1940, the German High Command, OKW, convened to discuss a bold new plan, Operation Sea Lion Unternehmen Sealer, the amphibious invasion of Great Britain. But such an invasion required one crucial element the Wehrmacht did not yet possess: control of the skies. Across the Channel, Britain was reeling yet unbroken. Prime Minister Winston Churchill had only recently taken office, promising defiance no matter the cost. In Parliament he declared, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall never surrender." To the British public, those words were more than rhetoric, they were a lifeline. The nation mobilized for total defense. Coastal guns positioned, barbed wire stretched along beaches, and civilian volunteers formed the home guard. Every man and woman understood an invasion was coming. In Berlin, planners began sketching the outline of the invasion. Phase I: gain air superiority over southern England. Phase II: neutralize the Royal Navy's Channel forces. Phase III: cross the English Channel with 10 divisions landing along a 200-mile front between Ramsgate and Lyme Bay. The invasion fleet would consist of 1,900 barges, hundreds of tugboats, and transport ships hastily requisitioned from across occupied Europe. But beneath the confidence of Hitler's speeches, there were cracks. The German Navy, Kriegsmarine, warned that they lacked the strength to protect such a convoy. The British Royal Navy, even battered, remained the most powerful sea force on Earth. Thus Hitler turned to his air marshal, Hermann Göring, commander of the Luftwaffe. Göring promised swift victory. He boasted that his bombers would smash the RAF in a matter of days. It was a promise that would soon prove fatal. By mid-July 1940, nearly 2,600 German aircraft were massed in northern France, Belgium, and Norway, fighters, dive bombers, and medium bombers standing ready. Opposing them, the Royal Air Force could field barely 700 modern fighters, mostly Hurricanes and Spitfires. To many German generals, victory seemed inevitable. But they underestimated Britain's radar network, the revolutionary chain home system, stretching from the Isle of Wight to the Scottish coast. These tall masts, lined with spinning antennae, gave the RAF precious minutes of warning before each raid. They were Britain's invisible shield. In underground bunkers like RAF Uxbridge, Fighter Command coordinated the defense under Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding and Air Vice Marshal Keith Park. Every fighter group, every sector station, was connected by telephone and radar plotting tables. This network, known as the Dowding System, was the first truly integrated air defense command in history. Young pilots from across the Commonwealth and occupied Europe arrived daily: Poles, Czechs, Canadians, New Zealanders, and South Africans. They were barely out of their teens. Many had never seen combat before. Soon they would face the most formidable air force in the world. On July 10, 1940, the Battle of Britain began. The first Luftwaffe formations swept across the Channel, attacking shipping convoys off Dover and Portland. Dogfights erupted over the English coast. The Luftwaffe lost 13 aircraft that day. The RAF lost 6. A small victory, but proof that the British would not yield easily. For weeks, these small raids tested the defenses. Then on August 13th, codenamed Adlertag, Eagle Day, Goering unleashed his full might. At dawn, radar operators detected hundreds of incoming contacts over the channel. The attack was massive, nearly 1,500 aircraft. The Luftwaffe targeted airfields, radar masts, and aircraft factories across southern England. Yet British radar gave early warning. Squadrons scrambled in time to intercept. Over the skies of Southampton, Portsmouth, and London, swirling duels erupted between Messerschmitt Bf 109s and Supermarine Spitfires. By nightfall, the Luftwaffe had lost 47 aircraft, the RAF 13. German pilots began to realize this battle would not be short. For the next 3 weeks, Britain endured relentless assault. Airfields were cratered, hangars burned, towns were struck by stray bombs. The sound of the air raid siren became part of daily life. Yet still the RAF fought on. Each day pilots returned to their airfields, exhausted, often climbing into replacement aircraft within hours. Ground crews worked through the night, repairing runways and refueling battered fighters. The Luftwaffe changed tactics, striking radar masts and coastal command centers, but these targets proved resilient. British engineers repaired damaged towers within hours, often under fire. By late August, losses on both sides were mounting. The Luftwaffe had destroyed many RAF bases, yet the British defenses refused to collapse. On August 20th, Churchill addressed the House of Commons. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. The few, as they became known, had turned the tide of history. But Goering, frustrated by slow progress, made a fatal decision. He shifted attacks away from airfields toward London itself. On September 7, 1940, hundreds of bombers roared over the Thames, striking the East End of London. Fires engulfed docks and warehouses. Civilians huddled in the underground for shelter. The Blitz had begun. For the RAF, this was a grim blessing. The Luftwaffe's focus on cities gave battered airfields time to recover. The British fighter strength rebounded faster than Goering imagined. As the flames rose over London, Hitler prepared to give the order for invasion. The barges waited in French ports. But across the Channel, Britain's spirit had not broken. The true test was yet to come. By the first week of September 1940, the skies over Britain burned. Columns of black smoke rose from London's East End, as warehouses, factories, and homes were consumed by fire. Night after night, Luftwaffe bombers crossed the Channel in endless waves, their engines droning through the dark. The Blitz had begun. Across the capital, searchlights swept the sky, anti-aircraft guns thundered, and civilians crowded into underground stations. Families huddled together on platforms, children asleep beside them, wrapped in blankets. Yet amidst the destruction, the British spirit only hardened. Firefighters and rescue teams worked tirelessly through the night. Buses ran, trains continued to move. And every morning, the Union Jack still flew above government buildings. Hitler believed that bombing London would break British morale. Goering promised that constant terror would force Churchill to negotiate. But in truth, this shift in strategy was a costly blunder. By diverting attacks away from RAF airfields, the Luftwaffe gave Britain's fighter command precious time to rebuild. Damaged airstrips were repaired, aircraft production increased, and exhausted pilots rotated for rest and replacement. While the Blitz raged over London, the RAF quietly regained its strength. In secret hangars across the countryside, new Spitfires rolled off assembly lines at an incredible pace. Radar stations, once prime targets, now operated without interference, giving early warning of every raid. The Luftwaffe's numerical advantage was slowly eroding. At dawn on September 15, 1940, German command launched its most ambitious daylight raid yet. More than 1,500 aircraft were ordered to crush London once and for all. If the city could be forced to its knees, Hitler believed, the invasion could still proceed. But this day would be remembered as Battle of Britain Day. Radar operators spotted the massive formation early. Squadrons from across southern England scrambled to intercept, hurricanes and Spitfires rising in waves. Over the Thames, the sky turned into chaos. Tracer rounds streaking through clouds, engines roaring, parachutes blossoming in smoke. From the ground, Londoners watched in awe as dogfights raged overhead. At one point, RAF pilots engaged German bombers directly over Buckingham Palace itself. By sunset, the Luftwaffe had lost 56 aircraft, its heaviest single-day loss of the battle. The RAF lost 26, but maintained control of the skies. That evening, Prime Minister Churchill visited Fighter Command headquarters. Watching the plotting table as red and blue markers showed the battle unfolding, he quietly remarked to his staff, "Don't speak to me, I've never been so moved." He later added the words that defined the struggle. Never was so much owed by so many to so few. In Berlin, the mood shifted from confidence to concern. Reports from the Channel coast painted a grim picture. The invasion barges, thousands of flat-bottomed river craft, were proving unstable in rough seas. Several had already sunk during training exercises. Autumn storms approached, and the window for a cross-channel assault was closing fast. Naval commanders warned that, without air superiority, any invasion would end in catastrophe. The Royal Navy, still dominant, could annihilate the invasion fleet before it even reached the English coast. Even Hitler, who despised hesitation, began to doubt. In early October 1940, Hitler summoned his high command to the Reich Chancellery in Berlin. Operation Sea Lion was discussed one final time. The reports were unanimous. The Luftwaffe had failed to destroy the RAF. British morale remained unbroken. The Royal Navy's power was undiminished. Hitler's gaze turned cold. He knew that to launch an invasion now would risk disaster, and his aura of invincibility. He postponed the operation indefinitely, telling his generals, "The English are like a wild animal, wounded but dangerous. We must turn our eyes east." With that, Operation Sea Lion was effectively dead. The invasion fleet remained in French ports, unused, until winter storms eventually destroyed many of the barges. Germany's attention shifted toward a new goal, the invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. Though the invasion was cancelled, the bombing of Britain continued. Night after night, cities like Liverpool, Birmingham, and Coventry suffered terrible raids. Between September 1940 and May 1941, more than 43,000 civilians were killed, and over 1 million homes were destroyed. But the Blitz failed to break Britain's will. Churchill's government grew stronger, not weaker. The people of Britain had endured the worst and refused to surrender. In underground shelters, poems and songs echoed through the darkness. The defiance was captured in one simple phrase, painted on walls across London: "We can take it." By 1941, the tables had begun to turn. British night fighters improved, anti-aircraft defenses tightened, and the RAF began launching small-scale raids against Germany itself. Factories in Berlin, Hamburg, and Bremen were struck. Though limited in scope, these raids proved that the British could and would fight back. The German public, who had been promised easy victory, now faced air raids of their own. For the first time since the war began, the Nazi regime appeared vulnerable. The Battle of Britain was not the largest conflict of the war, but it was one of the most decisive. For the first time, Hitler's advance across Europe had been halted. A small island nation had stood alone against the most powerful military machine on Earth and prevailed. The cost was heavy. Over 1,500 RAF aircrew killed or missing. More than 1,700 civilians dead during the main battle. Cities scarred by fire and rubble. But in victory, Britain gained time. Time to rebuild, to form alliances, and to prepare for the coming global war. When the United States entered the conflict in 1941, and the Soviet Union resisted in the East, the foundation for Germany's ultimate defeat had already been laid, here, over the skis of Britain. Historians often ask, could Hitler truly have invaded Britain? Many agree, without control of the air, it would have been suicide. The English Channel, narrow as it was, might as well have been an ocean. Operation Sea Lion was never officially cancelled, merely postponed. But in truth, it died the moment the RAF held its ground. As winter fell in 1940, Hitler turned his attention eastward, toward Moscow. Yet in doing so, he left a defiant Britain behind, one that would become a staging ground for his own destruction in 1944, on D-Day. The Battle of Britain had saved not only a nation, but the very possibility of future victory. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and nearly exhausted. But in the summer and autumn of 1940, a handful of young pilots, engineers, and civilians refused to give in. They turned the tide of the Second World War before it even began to fully unfold. In the words of Churchill, "If the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, 'This was their finest hour.'"